going on YouTube? I'm Robbie, I'm 25, and I just want to talk about kind of a lot of different things. Just give a little bit of context for my life, where I'm at, and kind of what I'm putting myself through at the current moment. So 3 or 4 years ago, I was about 315, 320 pounds. I'm now roughly 160, 170. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a scale right now. So I dropped a lot of weight, which is, super cool or whatever. During that time, and for the time I was losing the weight, I was also a full-blown alcoholic, consuming probably 80 to 90 drinks a week when it was really, really bad. And then, during the weight loss, I kind of tapered that down to like 6 drinks a day, which is like pretty still in the realm of full-blown alcoholism. Not as bad, certainly, but still rough nonetheless. So weight under control, drinking for the most part under control. I am mostly a social drinker now. And, I drink sometimes just to unwind, but I don't drink more than once, twice a week, max, typically, unless I'm on a vacation or whatever, and then I'm going to live it up. But, enough said about that. It's to the point where, my use is more typical 20-something-year-old abuse instead of a crutch for everyday life, which is really great. So with that out of the way, the next thing that I'm tackling is caffeine. I've been pretty much a lifelong user of caffeine. At least for more than half of my life, I've been, crushing Diet Cokes and coffees and energy drinks. It started with like mostly Diet Coke, and then it kind of escalated from there. But even as a teenager, Friday night, I would crush like 6 or 7 of those bad boys. So as you can tell, I have a very addictive personality, which is difficult to deal with, to say the least. And the reason why I've completely cut caffeine out of my life is to try to improve my anxiety. I have a slew of, well, not really a slew, but I have generalized anxiety, OCD, and major depression, which is like a great conglomeration of things to just like really add to your quality of life, and so I'm trying to do what I can to kind of help myself, because I've found that medication kind of just turns me into a really hedonistic and pessimistic, well, not necessarily pessimistic, but very hedonistic, like it's harder for me to not drink every day when I am on medication than it is for me to not drink every day when I'm not on medication, which is some kind of weird dichotomy or insert correct word. Not really sure what's going on with that. I should probably talk to someone, but it's a topic for another video. Right now, we're talking about caffeine. So 8 or 9 weeks ago, I decided to take the plunge into cold turkey caffeine. And, there have been a couple of fuck-ups here or there where, I've had a sip of, a chai tea latte, or eaten a bit of chocolate, or had some Nutella, which actually does have caffeine, which I did not know that Nutella had caffeine. And that was kind of like, I knew I loved Nutella, but I was like, oh, I'm like, I need more of this. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, sure enough, it has like 9 milligrams per tablespoon, which is a considerable amount. For context, a Diet Coke has 46 milligrams per can. So if you're just like eating spoon after spoon of Nutella, yeah, you're gonna have a pretty decent amount of caffeine going on. But I digress. So the first 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks sucked. I mean, yeah, you get the headaches. Take a Tylenol, though. The headaches are fine. They're kind of a non-issue if you take a Tylenol. Really, the most kind of impactful thing was just the overall lethargy, the lack of focus, and just kind of the general anhedonia, and just like lack of lust for life, lack of love for life, just kind of like depression, I guess, is the best way of putting it. And yeah, like that sucked. And I think I'm over that kind of initial hump. And there are some days when I feel like really good. My focus is great. My anxiety is lower. But that's not an everyday thing. And that's pretty frustrating. I've decided that I'm going to stick with it because, I do feel, generally less anxious, and I'm getting generally better sleep and feeling generally more at ease with myself off of caffeine than I did when I was, slamming energy drinks. But it's still tough. It's tough. It's really tough sometimes, you wake up and you're like, fuck. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Even if you have nothing to do, you just wake up and you're like, I don't want to do this. I really don't. I just don't feel like it. Where, a coffee or whatever would just kind of like light you up a little bit, set a fire under your ass and say, all right, we got shit to do, even if you don't have shit to do. It makes cleaning interesting. And so that's been probably the most difficult part, is kind of dealing with the lowered dopamine and all that, and kind of just like getting yourself out of a funk more easily. But, the flip side to that coin is sometimes it will just send you spiraling if you have too much or not enough. That was kind of my main issue, and kind of what made me realize that I really needed to kind of get this under control, is because I was either having too much caffeine or not enough caffeine. And it was kind of at the point where really all I needed, or what I needed most, was probably just like a slow drip IV of caffeine consistently running through my system so I wouldn't go through withdrawal. Or, feel the crash. The crashes are just, they're not worth it, probably, for the most part. So, I feel better. It's a little underwhelming, to be completely honest with you. I'm kind of like a little bit pissed off sometimes, because I'm like, yeah, I'm not really getting what I thought I was going to get. That being said, I'm also weaning down off of nicotine right now. Not that I want to necessarily completely stop, but I was crushing 50 milligram juice earlier this year, which, if you know what a Joule or a Vuse is, it was the strongest version of that, the strongest juice that they sold. So now I'm on a 3 milligram and 1.5 milligram juice. So it's been quite the weaning process, and doing both of those in conjunction with one another probably leads to added difficulty with both. But I figure it's time. I am an adult. and I need to get my anxiety under control so I can make something of myself. Yeah, I mean, and there's really no other reason for it, because I need to make something of myself, and I would like to enjoy living life for once without, needing to get drunk or high or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of what led me to make these decisions, and it's still a very kind of new process. And I plan to make videos talking probably a little bit more about each of them, and maybe kind of how I got to the point of needing to figure something out. Because I think that, I may not have unique experiences in the sense that I'm the only person that's ever gone through something like this, but I think I can maybe put a unique spin on things, or at least have, candid and unfiltered discussions about them. Because at the end of the day, I really don't have anything to lose, so I'll probably be relatively okay with getting into some of the more nitty-gritty details, especially of, the weight loss and alcoholism, because those things are, for the most part behind me. And I think a lot of what I have experienced could maybe help someone, or at least, give some perspective that will allow you to know what to expect, because it's not all roses after losing the weight. You know what I mean? It's not. Is life better? In some ways not, and you can say the same thing for not drinking every day. I'm bored a lot more, unfortunately, but those are topics for another video. So yeah, it is a wonderful Sunday morning where I am right now, and I hope it is for you too. And I will talk to you in the next one, I guess. All right, take care.